Hello and welcome to the two-man power trip of wrestling. I'm your host, JP John Paz. With me today, very special guest, former two-time WWE World Tag Team Champion, four-time OVW, and two-time OVW Tag Team Champion. He's, of course, Mr. Doug Basham. Doug, welcome to the two-man power trip. How you doing?
Thank you for having me on Power Trip. It's a pleasure to be here, bud.
What's going on in your world? I mean, we kind of see behind you got some OVW title belts, but what's going on in your world?
Oh man, look at this. I am currently here at the Ohio Valley Training Center, OVW, where we film our weekly shows on the Fight TV network. And I'm in Al Snow's office, sitting in Al Snow's chair, who is the CEO now of OVW. I just finished up a training session with a bunch of students and current roster members. And Al Snow is actually out in the arena doing TV review. He's reviewing our pay per view that we just had this Saturday, which was OVW's The Big One, our Saturday night special, and which was an event that both Al and I participated in, and we tagged together against a couple of individuals at Shannon the Dude, a local DJ here who is also an active member of our roster, brought on board to face us to hopefully help him not get 5 minutes in the ring with Al Snow. And I'm just going to stop there. And to intro the show, everybody can see our Saturday night special, OVW The Big One, on YouTube. You can get it for free. So you can go and test out our brand, our product, see how much you may like it, and you're going to get a hell of a show because it was the big one is our version of a WrestleMania, and it was it was a hell of a show. It was good. It was good, man.
And you're back, right? You're wrestling.
Well, I don't know if I'm back or if I'm, periodic, or if I'm testing the waters, or if I'm wanting to see what else I can do in OVW, because it's so the talent here in OVW right now is it rivals the talent of when I was in the developmental system when we had Brock Lesnar, Dave Batista, Randy Orton, Shelton Benjamin. Who else did I miss?
John Cena.
John Cena, and there was a slew of others. There's so many other talented individuals who were in OVW in the developmental system when I was there in the developmental system. But I'm telling you this right now, the Ohio Valley or the OVW roster right now rivals that roster. They're that good. They are that talented. They have the look. They can walk the walk. They can talk the talk. They're entertaining. And I am enjoying every minute of being here in Ohio Valley Wrestling, helping Al Snow, which is a story. If you want to hear it, we'll get into it. I'm sure you have a slew of questions, but there's a story as to why I'm back in OVW, and it's all Al Snow's fault. Wasn't
I would
mine. I had no inclination of coming back to Ohio Valley Wrestling, but Al Snow, he got me back here. But
Yeah. So how did he get you back? Because this is really like full circle for you, really.
it is actually, it's a very funny story, because I started here. Danny Davis, Nightmare Danny Davis, was
Yep.
the creator of OVW, Ohio Valley Championship Wrestling, is what he called it, and I was the very first Ohio Valley Wrestling student. Now, I wasn't Danny's first student. I want to make that clear. I was not Nightmare Danny Davis's first student ever. No, but I was the first student of Ohio Valley Wrestling. That's key. And starting here, training here, learning here, growing here, and then moving on from here at Ohio Valley Wrestling here at the historic Davis Arena, which started actually over in Indiana at in Jeffersonville, Indiana, at a little street called Mechanic Mechanic Street, which is ironic because I was called the Machine. Very ironic. Um,
Yeah, definitely.
and um, and then eventually moving over to Louisville, Kentucky, and bringing on the before we moved over to Louisville, Kentucky, Jim Cornette came in to the mix and brought into the company, and he brought the WWE developmental territory here, which brought in all that talent, which was bar none some of the best talent that has, you know, I don't know, second generation, if that's the right word, but after Rock and Austin, you know, that next generation of superstars, Ohio Valley Wrestling, OVW, they brought it. They brought the next generation of superstars to the WWE, and I want to give some credit. You know, those guys were good. They were talented. Brock Lesnar, Shelton Benjamin, Dave Batista, Randy Orton, John Cena, and there's Rico Constantino, several others. You know, Charlie Haas, several others that were here. Cody Rhodes, The Miz. Um, there was all those guys were here, but there were four guys that were here in OVW way before the developmental territory got here, way before you know, Jim Cornette joined in. Those four individuals who are coined the OVW originals were first up was me, the very first student. I was the very first one here, the OVW original. And then in came Nick Dinsmore, who is known as Eugene. He was another OVW original. And then third that came in was Rob Conway, who was known for La Resistance. And then the fourth was the Damager, Danny Holly, who was known as my brother and my tag team partner, Danny Basham. We were dubbed the OVW Originals, and we were here, and we had been here for years. I had been here in OVW for like 7, 8, 9 years before the developmental territory came here, and Nick had been here probably 6, 7, 8 years. Rob 6, 7, 8 years. Dano 6, 7, 8 years. Of course, I was the first one. I was here the longest, but not to put myself over. But and we worked with all these guys. They came in greener than you know, baby poop, and we worked with them. They wrestled us. They trained with us. They worked with us every day because we had training every day, Monday through Friday. You know, from I think our training, we started at 9, and I think we went to like 3 or 4. So we were in the ring for 6, 7 hours here at the arena every day, just getting after it, doing promos and wrestling and training and bumping, and it was rough. But those guys were in the ring with me, Nick, Rob, and Dano. And then OVW had live TV, you know, and they got TV experience, learning how to hit time cues, listen to, try not to give away too much stuff,
Right.
building their resume and learning the art and learning the tools, getting the tools that they needed to be successful in the WWE. So, and those guys were working with us. So not saying that we were the reason that they are successful, because they were all talented beyond belief, trust me. But I would say that we helped them. We helped them along and helped develop them.
No doubt. Yeah.
Batista, I forgot Batista too, right? Batista.
Yep.
Don't forget him. You know, we helped those guys along as much as we could, and we loved doing it. And we had no hard feelings or whatever, because we knew that when we get up there, we'd be working with them too. And so to speak, we did. You know, I got to work with John Cena. I got to work with Batista. I got to work with Charlie. I got to work with Shelton, who broke my nose. I got to work with Brock. I mean, I got to work with everybody up there that I got to work with down here. And, you know, there was just so much love spread, you know, between all of us. It was great, man. Sorry, I'm rambling, but there's
Hey, no problem.
yeah. Hey, you opened a can of worms.
Not rambling at all. No, it's great. But it's funny because it's like Al Snow's like, okay, this guy's the first, first student. Now let's bring him back for the trainer. Obviously, there's some good mojo there because of all those awesome talent that came before you and really after you. I mean, during that whole time period. So good mojo from Al Snow to kind of bring you back.
Oh yeah, and let me Al Snow. Let me touch on Al Snow, by the
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, thanks Al Snow. So, and I love him. He's a good dear friend of mine, and I'm very much grateful and thankful for being back here in OVW. Not just because it's where I started, but because of what Al has taken OVW to. He's taken it to a whole nother level, and I'm glad to be a part of that and help him, be his right hand man, so to speak, or help him do and deliver the message that he's trying to deliver, and do that for him. It's and Al, and he's a great guy, man. He really does. I've learned also. I thought I knew a lot about wrestling. When it come to wrestling, the wrestling part of it, and I knew a little bit about the production side of it, but I have learned so much about producing a wrestling show from Al and writing a wrestling show from Al, and the writing, the writing portion of wrestling. I've learned so much from him that I've gained a whole lot more knowledge, and I would like to think that I'm more valuable to Al and any company. Period. But I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying right here at OVW. Um, so what Al did during the pandemic, uh, he's smart. Al's clever. He's smart, and he's calculative, and he knows what he's doing. I give him that. He got me. But during the pandemic, um, let me back it up. I get fan mail still to this day. People send me pictures, letters, and stuff like that, and they want me to sign the pictures and send back to them, which was what I do. I got this, and I had a buddy who has a restaurant, or not. Well, he's a buddy now, but I didn't know there was a restaurant close to my home that just opened up, and I went to, and I really liked it, so I would frequent there all the time. And I got to know the bartenders there, and a lot of the waiters there, and a lot of the staff. And a lot of the staff were wrestling fans, and they'd always enjoyed when I came in there because we talked wrestling, and just I would have a good time with them and talk and everything else. But I had gotten this letter from a military veteran that sent me pictures and wanted me to sign them and send back to him. And he said that that it helped him with his PTSD to collect pictures and stuff. Oh, hey, thank you. You guys might be in for a treat. You
Oh,
might be in for a treat. Hey, Al, you want to come say hi, Al? Oh, he's got to pee. It'll take him
no.
3 or 4 minutes. But anyway, I'll finish my story. So anyway, the owner of that restaurant, I was showing these pictures to um, the bartender who was who's huge wrestling fan. And I was like, and I showed him the letter, and he goes, "Oh man, that's awesome! This is awesome." So I wrote a letter back to the veteran and sent the pictures back. But the owner of the restaurant walked behind me and said, "Oh, hey, I took those pictures." And I turned and I was like, "Huh?" And then it started to click. And then he started to talk. "Oh, yeah, you remember me? My name's Greg, and I used to take pictures for OVW, and we did this and we did that, and I did stuff for WWE." And I went, "Yes. Oh, yeah, that is correct. Yes, I remember. I remember." And then he goes, "Hey, do you think maybe Danny Davis or Jim Cornette or Al Snow or somebody would want some? I got a bunch of old pictures. Maybe they want to, maybe they want to, you know, buy them or want them or use them." So I said, "You know what? Let me ask." So I called my uncle Danny and I said, "Hey, Danny, there's all these pictures. I don't know why you would want them, but Al's got OVW. Do you think he would be interested in these pictures? And you think he would mind if I called him and talked to him? And do you have his number?" And he goes, no, here, I'll send it to you. Give him a call. And he loved it. One, he'd love to hear from you, and two, he may be interested. So I gave Al a call, and at that time the pandemic was going on, and Kentucky was closed down, in Indiana, because I live in Indiana. Indiana had just started to open up, where you could have so many people in a restaurant and so many people in groups and stuff like that. And Al had to keep TV going, and he wanted to keep uh, a weekly show. So he filmed over in Indiana, and he was filming multiple shows there at a arena in Indiana, because the Davis Arena was closed down. So I called him up. He goes, asked him, said, hey, Al, how's it going? Small talk, and then asked him if he would be interested in pictures, and he goes, "Oh yeah, hey, why don't you come down? Why don't you come down to the arena? We're here." And he gave me the address and all that, and come say hi to the boys, and come check everything out, and we'll talk. I'll talk to you after the show. So I said, "Yeah, sounds great." You know, Little did I know, Al had a plan. Oh, oh, he had a plan. Oh yeah, he was reeling me. He threw some chum
Yeah.
out there, and
Yeah.
I was chewing all over it.
Yeah.
I said,
Yeah.
"Oh yeah, yeah, yes, I'll come down." So I come down to the arena where they're filming, and I talk to everybody, or I meet everybody, introduce myself and stuff like that, and then I just kind of sit back behind Al. He's in a gorilla position, and I'm just watching him work, and just watching the show on the monitors, and just taking everything in. And then then after the show, we talk, and I tell him about the. Hey, all I wanted to do was sell Al some pictures. That's all I wanted to do. I
Yep.
said, "Oh, that's all I just wanted you. You want to buy these pictures?" I didn't have any inkling of getting back into wrestling, coming back to wrestling, doing anything with wrestling. I was done, right? Oh, but Al, Al Snow, you son of a gun. He
Gotcha.
he's he smelled. He saw blood like a shark, blood in the water. he's I told you he was clever. He's a very
Yeah.
smart man, very
Yep.
calculated. So we talked and stuff like that, and he asked me about the show, and I said it was great. And then he goes, "Hey, you want to come back next week, and you want to maybe agent a match and help me out a little bit?" And I go, and of course I'm going like this. I'm going, "Well, yeah, of course I will. Of course I will. Yeah, absolutely, I'll do it."
Yeah.
So I come back next week, and then Al takes his claws and digs them a little bit deeper in me. And then they opened up in Kentucky. And we come back to the Davis Arena. I come back home, and I enter an arena I haven't been in oh man, 12, 14 years that I haven't been in. And then Al, being a genius, knew if I came back home I would feel it.
Yeah.
So I'm here in the Davis Arena, and I'm helping again. I'm helping with the talent and their matches and stuff like that. And then he just takes it one step further. Every week he would go one more step. One more step, one more step, one more step. The guy's he's a genius, and so it finally got to the point to where I was here every week because I was loving it. And then he goes, "Hey, I'm going to be needing I'm going to be needing an advanced trainer. Would you like to, be my advanced trainer and help me train guys in OVW?" And of course, now, well, yeah, absolutely, of course I would, And then so here I am. I'm the advanced. Now I'm the advanced trainer. Here we are. This is 2 years later. 2 years later, I'm the advanced trainer for Al at his wrestling academy. I help agent matches here. I help produce the show. I sit in and help on the writing staff of the show. And John, I'm loving life, man. I am just loving it. And then here, just this past Saturday, the August 27th, we had our version of our WrestleMania. We had OVW's The Big One, which is our biggest show of the year. And I got the main event that with Al Snow. And I've never been in the ring with Al. I've never wrestled Al. I've never tagged Al. I've never touched Al. I've never done anything other than just friendship, here in OVW. And I got to share the ring and the spotlight with Al. And I can't tell you how much how euphoric it was and how amazing it was. And anybody who sees who sees the podcast here tonight, or when they see this, you should go on YouTube and you should look up and watch OVW, the big one. Check out the show. The whole show was amazing from top to bottom, beginning to end. And then, hopefully you would want to catch all of our shows on the Fight TV network every Thursday night, because we film live. We don't tape. Our show is live from 7 to 9 Eastern on the Fight TV network, man. And I am just loving life.
That's pretty cool if you think about it. You go from like, I'm kind of out of the business, like, I'll come check it out. Then he slowly reeled you in, like you said, but then you end up wrestling I mean, crazy.
Yeah. Al Snow's a genius. That's all I can say. He's a genius. How he got me from never wanting to come back to wrestling to being here to agenting to writing to or helping to write. I'm not right. It's all Al's idea. I just help fill in the blanks. To getting back in the ring, of course, that I may have had a little something. Yeah, he's a genius. That's all I can say. He's a cerebral genius. Oh, Al, Al.
When you were with OVW, were you contracted at any point, or you were a non-contracted guy?
When I was with OVW, I was non-contracted, and everything I did was to try to get a developmental contract, and it took me 10 years to get one.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when you finally got one, how does that go? Like, how does that happen? Is that like a cornet thing? Like, how does that actually happen?
Well, there were. I had a really good job with Ford Motor Company, and back in 95, I think, is when I first got the job. 94, 95, and Ford Motor Company, they pay really well. They paid really well, but you earned your money. You were there 8 to 10 hours a day and every other Saturday, and that really cut into my wrestling time. I trained. Danny had training on every Sunday. I never missed, which I never missed because I wanted to get better. And then they had house shows on Saturdays, Fridays and Saturdays, which I couldn't do all of them. I can only do every other. And when Jim Cornette came in, Danny started Ohio Valley Wrestling, and they started their TVs, and I was on a shift at Ford where I couldn't do the TVs. So Jimmy was always trying to get me to constantly hammering away at me. Hey, can you switch shifts? Can you be here? Can you be here with us and all that? And I said, there's nothing I can do. I have no seniority. I'm a low man on the totem pole. But then Ford Motor Company created or developed or created, whatever you want to say, a third crew, which was like a swing shift crew on the weekends, which allowed me to be able to make OVW TV and also house shows. And when that started, that's when I came back to OVW, because I was absent for 2 years. 2 years. But I took that time, that 2 years away, to train and work out and transform my body and try and gain weight. And I gained about 50 pounds and 50.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't 50 pounds of muscle, but in 2 years. But I transformed my body, and I looked totally different when I went back. And then I had this idea, and I shared it with Jimmy about coming back under a mask and where nobody knew who I was, and created a character called or a persona called the Machine. And then he had this. He had an idea. Also, he took it and just had an idea to write this guy, Danny's nephew, take over the company, yada yada, disgruntled and blah blah blah. It was amazing. It was some of the best stuff I've ever been a part of, and probably some of the best, some of the best times of my life. but I also have some really good times in WWE too. And I am currently creating more great times here in OVW now.
What are your thoughts on Jimmy Cornette, the lightning rod, if you will? What do you think about Jim?
Oh, Jimmy, every I got nothing against Jimmy. I like Jimmy. He's everything Jimmy ever did for me was to help me. Got an interesting story about Jimmy that I'll share with you. In WWE, when it come closer to our future endeavorment, I was I was home. Uh, me and Danny were sitting on the shelf. We were just trying to come up with new ideas for ourselves, just to give to the writing crew and all that. But if you don't stay relevant, you're gone. You're just another cog in the wheel, and you're replaceable, right? So I got that call. I went home. I was living in Tampa, Florida at the time, and then I went home to Indiana, Southern Indiana, Louisville, Kentucky, uh, if you will. And my grandfather had passed away, so I was home for his funeral. And I was got into the rental car and was heading to the funeral home, and I got this call. It had a Stanford. You know how back then we had the flip phones. We didn't have all this technology these days.
That 203 number pops up.
Yes, a 203 number popped up on my flip phone, right? So I was like, "Oh, I better answer this." So I answered it, and it was Johnny Ace, Johnny Laurinaitis, and he goes, "Hey, Doug, Johnny Laurinaitis, how you doing, man?" And I go, well, not so good. I'm here back home going to my grandfather's funeral." And there was like an awkward silence for like 15 seconds. And then he goes, "Oh, God." And I go, "You okay?" He goes, "We have to let you go." I was
Oh,
like, and there was another awkward silence for like 45 seconds. It was like a longer silence. And then I didn't know what to say. I was like, uh, "Is this a rib? Are you ribbing?" But I'm
all right.
assuming not. If you're calling me, you're releasing me. And then we had some small talk and whatever. And then they let me go. And I just like, okay, all right. So what am I going to do? So that was on a Thursday, and I remember the days. I don't remember the 12th, 13th, or 14th, but I remember the day. That was a Thursday. On the Friday at like 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, because it was early, Jim Cornette calls me up and goes, "Doug Basham, Jim Cornette, how you doing? Yada yada yada. When's your 90 days up?" I mean, he just went straight to the point. I was like,
Yep.
"Hey, Jimmy, how are you? How you doing?" I said, "I don't know. I think 90 days from tomorrow or yesterday." He goes, "All right, great. We're going to have you here. Blah, 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 blah. Let me keep you converted in March, whatever." I think this was I want to say this was in February, March, April. And I think, I can't, you know what? I should know this stuff, but I think we debuted in May, I think in TNA. And Jimmy had everything to do with that. He contacted us ASAP as soon as we were released. Actually, the first words that came out of his mouth was, "Hey, Doug, Jim Cornette, congratulations." That was his first words he said. I do remember that. And then he goes, "Want to bring in the TNA and, when's your 90 days up," basically, in a nutshell. And there we are. Glad to have it. So
When you
it was the worst day of my life, and then, hell, it was a great day of my life.
right.
Right after that.
When you are getting into WWE originally, I mean, obviously, well before the release, how do you get like called up? Like, is it like almost like the same call but in reverse? Johnny Ace gives you a call and says, you're getting promoted. Like, how does that happen?
Well, a lot of times they would send their writers or agents would come down, or would come visit the arena here in OVW, and they would evaluate the talent, and then they would bring people up who they thought would need to be, take a look at, and let all the writers. Sometimes they'd send writers down to look at people, and but for the most part, I think it's just luck, and if if you filled a spot that they needed to have filled. I mean, you remember Luther Reigns?
Oh, yeah.
Vince McMahon saw Luther Reigns in a suit and liked the way he looked and gave him a job. And he was just there to do like extra work and stuff like that, and then sent him to OVW and stuff. So, I mean, luck of the draw, man. So you're here, and supposedly they were supposed to be looking at tapes, because back then we had VHS tapes, because this was back in, back before all this technology and everything. But I don't know if the writers really looked at them all that much. I think they just kind of relied on when agents would come down and take a look at guys and go, "Oh, hey, John Cena's ready. He's big. Batista's a beast. I think he's ready." But they came down to look at Batista, a few times, and he just wasn't ready. So he stayed here probably a little longer than, not that he needed, longer that he needed. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
which gave him lots of success when he moved up.
Yeah, he was ready when he got moved up. Yeah.
Yes. There was a saying. There was a guy here that was training. His name was Rip Rogers, and he always said this. He said, "But when you move up, I want you to be over prepared." And I carry that same, and I think Al does too. That same persona, that same message. I want you to be over prepared when you step in the ring.
Well, better, way better than being underprepared. For
Oh
sure.
God, if you're underprepared, it could bury you big time. You'll never make it. You get one chance, you'll never get a second one.
Yep. So when you do get called up, and obviously, from OVW to WWE, is that just like a whirlwind for you? Or are you happy? Like, this was like the ultimate goal, the ultimate dream. You
Oh,
want to be WWE?
oh God, yeah, that is the ultimate dream. That's the goal. Uh, there's steps. You want to get a development. Back then, you wanted to get a developmental contract to get a look. Well, ultimately, you wanted to be brought up to the main roster. But if you didn't, you wanted to get a developmental contract. So you get a developmental contract. You come here to Louisville. You train, and then you work and learn. Work, train, learn, get better, and then hopefully you get that call up, and it's called the call up, and that's to the active roster, because that's when you say bye bye Louisville. You get to go back home, wherever your home base is, and then you get to live your dream. Fly out every week from wherever you live from. Do the loop wherever the loop is. Cash your check every week and live your dream. You're doing what you love to do, and you're getting paid to do it. And there's no greater feeling in the world than making money, making a living, doing what you love to do.
Absolutely. So when they call you up, you guys are going to be the Basham Brothers. Was this like to you? It was like, okay, Damage, like you said, he's going to be Danny Basham. Like, do you like the Basham Brothers? What did they say as far as like the Basham Brothers making you guys a tag team and giving you a gimmick together?
Well, here's that story. So I got brought up before Danny. I got brought up as a single guy, and I had a full head of hair. I had a mullet, because I was trying to grow my hair out, and every time I just grew it out because I was a heel. And every time the more hair you had when you get punched, it just looks better when it flies.
Yep.
And so they brought me up and took a look at me as a singles guy. And then I went home and sat at home for a week or two. And then they brought me and Danny up together and took a look at us as a tag. And I'm just going to, because it's me, I'm going to say, we killed it because we obviously made the grade. And then they brought us up for a couple of weeks. And then we were in Pensacola, Florida. And me and Danny were sitting in catering, just waiting to get our assignment and see what we were doing, because we thought maybe we were just going to do another dark and be looked at again, and dark being a dark match,
Right.
the matches that are before the actual TV. So we're sitting there, and then Johnny Laurinaitis comes up and sits down and talks to us, and we're like, "Hey, Johnny, what's going on?" He goes, "Hey, we're going to debut you guys tonight as the Basham Brothers." And of course, I am like, "Oh, that's great! I love it! I get to use my last name."
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
Danny's like, "Oh, hey, that's great! Love it, love it." Yeah, it was like, "What's wrong with you, kid? This is it. We made it." But that's kind of how that happened.
Yeah. He's probably like,
So
what, Danny Basham?
he's
Like,
like,
what the hell?
"Oh
Yeah.
shit," or pardon me, I'm sorry. "Oh shoot, I'm your brother. I'm a Basham. I don't get to use my own name. I don't get to use this. I don't get to use that. You get to use your own name, and yada yada yada. There's
Yep.
probably all kinds of stuff going through his head, um, but that night in Pensacola, Florida, we debuted against Rikishi and Spanky, and we went out there and got stink faced and went over on Spanky. Basham Brothers are born.
Yeah. You gotta love it.
Oh, hell of a way to introduce yourself to the wrestling world.
Yeah. And hey, you guys win the tag team titles over Eddie Guerrero and Chavo Los Guerreros. And that's a big win, big victory, especially being WWE Tag Team Champions. Not too bad on the resume.
It was Danny and I. We did because we were brought up the way we were and trained the way we were. We I feel like we did everything the right way, and we worked our way up the ladder. That's what I feel. We just kind of was doing what we needed to do and earn our spot on the roster. And when asked to do something, we did it. No questions asked, no boo boo facing, nothing, whatever, because that's what you should do. And then when they said they were going to put the titles on us and we were going to go over on Eddie and Chavo, we were like, huh? What? And I have an interesting story to tell you before. Let me back it up a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here's a story for everybody for you. When me and Danny first came up, it's when Eddie and Tajiri, I think they were the tag champs. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
I think they were. So
Yep.
they put me and Danny in there with Eddie and Tajiri, and we went out there and had a match. Now, granted, Danny and I had a hand in training Shelton Benjamin and Charlie Haas, right? They were
Yep.
the world's greatest tag team, right? And they were kind of having a feud with Tajiri and Eddie because they got moved up obviously before we did, because the WWE was going to bring up the guys they're paying to bring in, and they made more money than us when they were in
Of course.
development. But they're going to bring those guys up because they are their guys. And then eventually, finally, me and Danny and Nick and Rob and everybody else got brought up. So I found this out after the match, like a few days later. I thought it was funny. Charlie and Shelton were watching the monitor when me and Danny were out there in the ring working with Eddie and Tajiri. And I forget who told me. I think it may have been John Cena, because me and Danny used to ride up and down the road with John Cena. I think it was him, because he was watching the monitor, watching the match too, because he was still working his way up the ladder too at that time. As a matter of fact, that's exactly who told us that, because we all rode together. Uh, he said Shelton turned after me and Danny had our match with Tajiri and Eddie. He said Shelton turned to Charlie and said this. He goes, "Why do I feel like somebody just stole my girlfriend?" Because we went out there and we did business. We did good business, and we put them over, and we didn't skip a beat. You can probably look that match up on YouTube somewhere. I'm sure it was good. It was really good.
Oh, yeah. So when you guys do win the titles, you said you were a little surprised, right? Like, shit, we're winning the tag title.
Well, it was not necessarily a surprise so much as like an honor. Like, because there's a few people in wrestling that I would watch and that I was always kind of a fan of and wanted to be like or emulate. One of those people was, God damn it, Scott Hall. I always liked him. Another one was Eddie Guerrero, and just because of his work and his demeanor and everything. Chris Benoit. And I also liked and really heavily influenced by Bret Hart. So when I got to work with Eddie, and he was going to drop they were going to drop the titles to us in Chavo. That was like a dream come true. It's like I can't believe that this is actually happening. This is surreal, surreal. So winning the titles from for the first time from Eddie and Chavo was amazing. And I remember after the match, me and Danny after and the match, it was amazing. It was a great match. It was good. We come back and went all the way back through Gorilla and through the tunnel and went back beyond whatever. And we were sitting there waiting on Eddie and Chavo. And me and Danny sat there and had our moment. We looked at each other and we looked at each other and we had the titles and we were like, wow, this is awesome, man. This is why we did this. This is why we take all these crazy ass bumps and stuff. We did it, man. We made it. We gave each other a hug, and we thanked each other. And then we waited for Eddie and Chavo, and Eddie and Chavo came up and just said the nicest, the most kind words to both of us, and thanked us, and we thanked them, and gave them hugs, and we went on to do what we did.
It's great that you guys win the tag titles, but maybe not so great. But depending on what you think, what's up with the S&M stuff? Like, why did they decide to like change gears here and do some like I don't know. Like, I feel like WWE sometimes tries to do too much. Like, I don't know, try to be off the wall, or they try to be unpredictable. What's up with the S&M?
Here's the story behind that. You ready for this one?
Yeah.
All right. So me and Danny come in OVW. We were a faction called the Revolution, and because we wore black leather pants. The black leather pants came from when I saw the movie 9mm. I think it was 8mm or 9mm with Nicolas Cage. I get it mixed up. There was this character in this movie who wore a black leather mask, an S&M mask, black leather pants, and would just slice and dice and kill women, right? Because like in a snuff film.
Yeah.
And it was very dark film. So I said, holy crap, that is a wrestling character. So that's where, and his name was Machine. They called him Machine. And I said, that's a wrestling character, and I'm going to call myself Machine. And I brought it to Jimmy, and he wrote for it, and Machine was born, and the Revolution was born, and everybody in my faction wore black leather pants. So, ergo S&M, right? So when me and Danny move up, we wear our black leather pants, and that's just our look. That's just what we wore. It had nothing to do with S&M. It was just us and who we were, the Basham Brothers. So this writer, this new young writer for WWE, goes to a Britney Spears concert. Thank you, Britney. This is all your fault. Your fault. Goes to a Britney Spears concert, and she is dressed up as a dominatrix, and all her dancers were males dressed in black leather pants or whatever, pleather, whatever shiny black. And he gets this idea, oh, hey, the Bashams wear black leather pants. Why don't we put an S&M or a dominatrix with them and have them be, her bitch, her bitches.
Yeah, right.
And that is how that was born. And that's where Linda Miles came in. And Jesus, what a dominatrix she be. Jeez Louise. I mean, she was a specimen.
Shaniqua, right? That was the gimmick.
Shaniqua, yep. And actually, she came up with that name. Linda, they gave us Linda, and here's a funny story. And we were sitting in, we were in the arena somewhere, and Linda was talking to us. This was the very first day, she found out she was going to be with us. And Stephanie McMahon came up, Goes, hey, we're gonna put you guys together, whatever, and Linda, we want to call you LaQuisha. LaQuisha. I remember this to the T because I was sitting there right there. LaQuisha. And Linda goes, you know what, Steph? You know what, Steph? I'm not feeling LaQuisha. I'm feeling Shaniqua. Can we do Shaniqua? And of course, I'm screeching. I'm going, ah, 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 please no. And then Stephanie goes, okay, if you're feeling it, we'll do it. And I was like, oh, all right, dodge that bullet.
Yep.
But we have to keep a close watch on this one.
It is funny though with like WWE sometimes it's like, do you really need that gimmick? You know what I mean? Like you guys were good on your own. Like do we really need to do that? It feels like sometimes they put the extra mile on it when they kind of don't need to.
You know, six in one hand, half a dozen in the other. I've had this debate with myself and me and Danny. Actually, we still talk. And we all frequently. And we talked and we said, you know what? If we knew back then what we know now, we would have done things a little bit different. And the WWE has a tendency to want to put the spotlight on something other than the people doing the work in the ring. And that was back then. I'm sure it's different now, but we would have put more of the spotlight on her, and then us just did our thing because we knew eventually we would get our time and our run whenever it happened. But we should have did more of what Eddie Guerrero did with China, or what with uh, um, Generation X did with China, you know,
Yeah.
and put the spotlight on her because that was the focus. And Vince liked bodies. He liked big, nice bodies, and she had a great body. I mean, she was a freak of nature. I mean, she was ripped. She was 6 foot tall. She was athletic. She had a presence, and I feel like that maybe I dropped the ball. Me,
Yep.
dropped the ball on that one, and should have saw the writing on the wall. But my training and my upbringing and my way of thinking and my old school mentality just didn't let me see through that. So I take responsibility for that one. Hey,
Did you like the cabinet when they put you at JBL and you guys became the cabinet? Did you like that gimmick?
oh God, yeah, that was. I mean, that was revitalizing moment in our mine and Danny's career, and it was great. And loved every minute. Even though me and Danny, we dubbed ourselves the Crash Test Dummies, but it was great, and it was a stepping stone to eventual singles careers. And it was great. Made a lot of money during that time too, just so you know.
Nice. I've talked to JBL before, and he was saying there were so many injuries before that. To like Big Show got hurt and Kurt Angle, so it's like they needed a big heel on SmackDown, and like okay, let's try out JBL, and boy, they gave it to him, and he knocked it out of the park. So the
Oh,
cabinet was great too because it just added to the JBL character.
blew it out of the water. And JBL, the thing about JBL, what I learned, this is something that I learned from JBL. And, we're friends to this day, He was a heel 24/7, not just on TV.
Keeping it real.
What does that mean, Doug? Well, that means that he wasn't one that wanted to be liked. He didn't sign autographs. He didn't take pictures. He walked past people in airports, and and then the social media and stuff started to grow back then. It was starting to get new, and people were starting to talk, and he was starting to get some major heat, and people people hated him. And I the most the scariest time in my life in professional wrestling was the night that we went to ECW's One Night Stand, and we had to walk through the crowd up to the balcony. That was the most intense, scary, on point time in my life ever in wrestling, because when we walked in, when those doors opened and we started to walk in, you could feel there's this thing you could just feel the negativity, you could feel the anger, you could feel the hatred, and I was like just looking for anything shiny to just poke me and try to stab me. I was on DEFCON 5. I was on watch. I was like, ain't nobody gonna get me. You can get JBL. I don't care. You can get him, but you're not getting me, because I was guilty by association. So dude, I was on. I was tense. That was a very tense moment in my career. If you want to know the most intense moment, that's it.
Yeah, definitely. So when he's doing that though, he's being healed. Are you doing that too? Are you guys kind of going along with him? Kind of making sure like, okay, I'm going to be an asshole, no autographs, this and that.
Yep, absolutely. You gotta live the gimmick.
Is that also a thing where he got a lot of unnecessary heat, maybe from like the boys in the back and stuff? You know, where you hear a lot of stories about JBL. No, yes.
I'm just gonna smile.
Oh, okay. Interesting. I feel like and I've talked to him about this. Maybe a little misconception out there about him.
He's actually something people don't know about him, and I don't know if he wants this out there or not, but he is a very intelligent individual. Very, very, very smart man. I have actually called him and asked him some advice when it comes to finances and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
And
Yep.
he's given me some very good advice on some of my businesses. And and one particular business was key, and it was a advice that helped me move forward and make money. And I don't want to bring anything about money, but
Right.
JBL's money. He really is. He's intelligent. He knows his business. He knows about investment. He knows, his life after wrestling is way, would paint him a better picture of him than probably in wrestling. But, I can't say enough. The man, JBL, um, he helped me in my career. He came down to OVW. I'll go back. Let's back it up a little bit. So we're going to go. The first time I met JBL was when he came to OVW when I was here in the development system, and he was rehabbing a broken forearm. And he came down here, and Danny Davis is here, and obviously JBL and Danny hit it off well, and they were great. And then John Bradshaw found out that I was Danny's nephew, but he didn't take me under his wing. He took me as, oh, let's see what kind of kid this kid is. And I got hazed by him and passed the test. And then once I passed the test, like everybody does, I mean everybody's a freshman on a sports team one time or another, right?
Oh yeah. I remember those football days. Oh yeah.
Yes, and being football is a great example. So you know what you had to go through,
Yes. Yep.
and you know how you had to take it.
Yep.
Same thing in football, basketball, baseball, hockey, soccer, uh, chess club. It doesn't matter. Checkers does not matter. Same thing. It's how you handle it. And the same thing with wrestling. I'm sure it happens in MMA too. I don't know. I don't know if there's a tier status or whatnot. I don't know. But same thing. It's all how you handle it. And I was trained right and taught right and passed the test. And JBL, when the time was right, took me under his wing, and brought me on part of the cabinet. There's a whole nother story about how the cabinet and how me and Danny were brought to be, and Al Snow had something to do with that. Um,
Al again. Wow.
Al again, yes, Al Snow again, and Um, I consider Al a very good friend of mine. To this day, we live like 3 miles from each other, and we talk all the time because of OVW. And then, I'll just stop there. I'm going to stop there because
But
I don't want to
he,
get. I'm not going to give too much of my life to everybody. You know what I mean?
yeah, absolutely. But he helped you get into the cabinet. That wasn't JBL's idea to bring you guys into the cabinet.
Yeah. Al, whenever me and Danny had to do the Tough Enough challenge.
Yep.
So weeks prior, um, some of our $1 million superstars were getting embarrassed, and everybody can go back and watch this. The Big Show was doing a body slam challenge, and Al Snow said, "You shouldn't do that. No, you shouldn't do that. Don't do that. They're not trained." They did it anyway, and boom, Big Show would slam them, and the guys would pop back up and make Big Show look like, you know, you ain't nothing, and which was bad. The week after that, Kurt Angle was doing some sort of a tap out challenge or something like that. Again, Al Snow said, "You shouldn't do that. That's not a good idea because these kids are not trained." And there was one guy there named Daniel Puder who was an actual
MMA fighter. Yeah.
MMA fighter, and Kurt. And I'm telling you this now to everybody listening. The only reason, and I'm saying this, and I said this to Daniel Puder to his face, the only reason you got Kurt in that key lock is because he had a neck injury, a pinched nerve. He only had 50% strength in his left arm, and that he had no strength. He could not do anything with his left arm.
Wow.
So that's the main reason that that's the main reason he got him in that key lock.
Well,
But
and I don't think
still,
Kurt's
it's an
thinking the guy's going to
embarrassment.
be unprofessional either. You know what I
Well,
mean?
yeah, it was an embarrassment. They should have put him in that. And those are $1 million guys, making look like chumps.
Yep.
And then they went off to some teddy bear thing and some other thing, and then they decided to do a get the flag in the corner challenge. And me and Danny had been on the shelf and granted, now remember, Al had been down in OVW, and when I was down in OVW, so I knew Al and was acquaintances with Al. Hadn't become good friends with Al until now. Now is the time I've become really good friends with Al, but acquaintances before. But Al has known Danny, great friends with Danny and everybody else, Jimmy and everybody else affiliated with OVW. So hang on one second. I had to check I got 13%
Oh,
on my phone, and I have no. If I unplug, I'll anyway. So I'll get to the Jimmy, get to the skinny. So Al is the tough enough, trainer. So Al is in there. When me and Danny are sitting there, having to keep all these kids from coming across the ring to get the flag. Al's in there. And if you can go back and watch, I don't know if it shows it or not, but Al's giving us, hey, you'll be able to get this guy. Hey, this guy's strong. Hey, this guy here, he's soft. Hey, this guy here, you may have a trouble with. Hey, this guy here is very quick.
right.
So me and Al, once again, me and Al in a ring, in the WWE ring again, and him
Yep.
trying to help me. And the advice and the information he gave me and Danny on each one of these kids coming in was very valuable. And the only reason that Daniel Puder at the very end got as close to that flag as he did was because me and Danny, we were jelly. We were toast. We were done. And something that I found out after we stopped all those kids from getting that flag, and we represented the WWE, and we won. WWE won, not the Tough Enough guys. They had Charlie Haas and Bob Holly waiting in the wings if somebody got biased to go out and refilm stuff.
Oh,
Yeah, we did our job.
Yep.
We
I
earned our
wouldn't want to
spot.
mess with Holly and Haas either. you know.
They didn't have to. We did the job.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah. Thankfully.
because we stopped those kids from getting there, then we got rewarded. JBL and Undertaker had went to Vince and said, "Hey, you put those boys in jeopardy. We need to reward them." And then we got put with the cabinet, and the Basham Brothers, the Secretaries of Defense, was born,
Awesome.
and we made
I
a
know.
lot of money. A lot
Yeah.
of money. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, JBL. Yeah. And thank
Thank
you, Al.
you,
Yeah.
JB. Al. Thank you, Al. Thank you,
Taker.
JBL, and thank you, Taker,
As we hit the wind down, we head towards the
and
finish because I.
thank you, Vince.
Yeah, of course. Yes. I know you're running low on battery, so we'll head towards the wind down. We'll head towards the finish. I just got to ask about the Bash Man. Where the heck? Where did that come from? That was such a I don't know, odd, I guess, unique character, but it fit WWE.
Well, it didn't work because I had an idea of a guy, and I guess it was kind of similar to JBL, which I think Vince, after fact, Vince thought that it was too similar to JBL. It was supposed to be a character that took relative, immediate in news events and compared them to people who are in wrestling, and then cut a promo on the people who are cutting promos. So at that time, Janet Jackson, her boob popped out,
Oh yeah, yep.
and Eddie Guerrero, his book came out on his drug addiction, when he was a drug addict and his conquering of all that. So I was one to say, hey, everybody is everybody's so hard on Janet Jackson, thinking that she wants to get popular again by exposing herself. But what do you think about Eddie Guerrero exposing himself? Yeah. Oh, you feel sorry for her, but you feel sorry for him. But this is what I think. I think he's just trying to do this to get sympathy for whatever and take your money, yada 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 yada. So I would bash not just Eddie Guerrero. I would bash the people who were bashing Janet Jackson. And it just didn't resonate. And the writer that they assigned to me was new. He was ambitious. He was wanting to make a star, and he wanted to make something his own. He took my idea, he threw it in a blender, he hit super blend, and then poured it in a glass and told me to drink it. And I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Yep.
I'm sorry,
Yeah, no problem.
if
Yeah.
I can't curse. I said, put it in a blender, and I said, what the heck is this?
Didn't work.
It just, I was lost. It got lost in translation, and I didn't know how to. I didn't know how to. I didn't know how to bring it up. I didn't know how to do it, and that was the end of my WWE career.
And we already discussed the call from Johnny Ace, the very
Yep, that was the end. Yep,
yeah,
that
not
was
so great
that was
call
it.
there. But as far as like what you're doing today, obviously with OVW, just give us like what's next, what's down the pike. Will we see you wrestling more? Like, what are we going to see more out of you?
Well, that's a great question because I had a one-on-one conversation with Al, and I said, you know what, Al, um, I never really retired, and you know, I just kind of went away. My last match was in England, and I watched the movie The Wrestler, and I said, that's not going to be me. So when I came home from my English tour, I just hung my boots up and never got back out there. Which I could have reached out to Jim Cornette because he was at Ring of Honor at the time. I could have went to Texas. I could have went all over the place, but I just didn't, and I wished I would have. So I could have kept going and made a mark. And then speaking with Al one day, I was like, you know what? I never really retired officially. I just kind of went away, and I said I would love an opportunity to, if it was ever to arise, to do something more. If it makes sense, if it does business, and if it makes sense. And and think about Al. The thing I love about Al, he listens. You know what I mean? He will listen, and then he takes stuff and he puts it back here, and then um, he he just puts it like in. He thinks about stuff. He's a thinker. He's
Right.
always thinking, and this is one of the things I've learned about Al, and one of the things that I admire about him is that he always does things for a reason, which is he just doesn't. There's a reason, and there's an end game, which is something that I've learned about him, and producing a show, writing a show, and having the forethought, down the road. And I told him, hey, this is something that maybe I'm thinking about. I'll let you know after the SNS. you know, uh, if I can do this or not. And I'm just going to say this: this is a sport for young people.
Hey, but you look like you were in great shape. Al, too.
You know what? Both Al and myself trained hard to get in shape for this, and I can honestly say that the TV adds 10 pounds, and I
10
was in
pounds
the
of muscle, maybe.
well, I was in the best shape I could be. Al was in the best shape he could be, and if I had to do it again, I probably wouldn't look any different. And the biggest thing, if people watching now, watch that match, just pay attention to the crowd reaction and how loud they were, and then pay attention to um, the story that Al and I told, because I'm very proud of that last. Whoop, did I just say last match?
Oh, damn.
Oops.
Might be the last one. I don't know. Maybe not, though. I feel like Al will coerce you and reel you back in for another one.
Oh, I'm sure he's clever. He has this hook, and he'll grab it. Just
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. So where can everybody find you? Like social media and otherwise.
I am Doug Basham1 at gmail.com. You can find me on Facebook. I have an Instagram page, The Real Doug Basham. I am about to start ramping up. I mean, extremely ramping up my Instagram. It's going to be very entertaining. A lot of stuff going on. OVW just wrapped up a major. I got to be careful what I say. We just wrapped up a major summer project, and it will be coming out, in the near future on a major streaming network, and it will give a lot of insight to OVW, and I'm trying to. I got to be careful because I can't say a lot of stuff. Just a lot of good. Just follow ovwrestling.com. Follow OVW. Keep Googling, trending, hashtagging, watching, whatever, anything OVW, because OVW is about to blow up.
Wow. Nice.
Boom.
Nice. Like to hear that. Awesome. But
Oh, yeah.
Doug, thank you so much for all the time today. Really appreciate it.
I thank you for having me, man, and thank you for letting me tell my story and let me get stuff out there. And anytime, if you need anything else, man, just let me know.